I'm Weather from the Summoner School Discord, and I'm going to be reviewing the Ashe in this game. Something that I like doing at the beginning of every game is going over win conditions. So, going to go over your win conditions. First, let's look at what your team comp can do, and then we'll look at what their team comp can do, and we'll talk about what you should be trying to do to play to your win condition. So you've got Urgot, who's a very strong 1v1 laner, good split push, and reasonable team fight, but I would say he's more of a split pusher, where he gets ahead in lane and starts just being very, very abusive. But in order to do that, he's going to require a little bit of early game help. So Kindred's probably going to go top a couple of times. Kindred is a jungler whose path is a little bit awkward because of her marks. So sometimes she's going to have to be at the wrong side of the map. Sometimes she's going to be invading whenever she shouldn't be, and sometimes she's going to stay for a scuttle whenever she might be wanting to clear up to top to gank. But none of that's really a problem. It just means she's going to be playing different, so you're going to be paying attention to where she is and whether or not she's able to help your lane. LeBlanc is a very strong champion too. She's very pick reliant and has a good amount of wave clear, so she's probably going to want to wave clear and then roam. And then your bot lane has a lot of crowd control. Okay, so what's going to happen in your team fight is it's going to be really reliant on you probably catching out someone like either the Jhin, the Veigar, or even the Kayle. But you're going to want to make sure whenever you catch these people out, they can't just get ulted right away by the Kayle. So you're going to want to make sure that you rotate in such a way that there's going to be only 3 of them in a lane probably. Your Braum should be able to follow up, and that would kind of counter the Bard. So if the Bard tries to ult someone, it just sets up a perfect Braum ultimate. So if you get a good arrow off, it's not like the Bard's going to be able to disengage this. It's the Kayle who would be the one who disengages it. And during your laning phase, you probably are going to be fine. Ashe has a very good poke laning phase, so you should be able to play into the Jhin pretty effectively. Braum has a pretty good all-in, so does Bard, but we'll see what happens with that matchup. So what this means your team wants to do, right? Your team is going to want to probably play around mid lane kind of early, get an Ashe ult onto the Veigar, and then you should be able to pick up that kill for completely free. If you're able to do that, the Kayle's probably not going to be in position to where he wants to or she wants to wave clear. Kayle jungle is a very farm-heavy jungle, and wave clearing will still be very risky for them. So if they come to try and wave clear this, you could potentially even dive it, depending upon what level the Kayle is and whenever you try and do this and what other things are happening. But anyways, your focus should be to get your lane to a stage that you're able to rotate mid. Whether or not that means you take their tower, means that you watch your waves and you just Ashe ult whenever you might be recalling instead. But it's going to open up a lot of the map to the LeBlanc roams. Once you open up the map to the LeBlanc roams, that's going to set it up so that the Urgot can play as aggressive as he wants, because if the LeBlanc goes missing, she could be ganking top. And if she ganks top, that's probably going to be a kill. And if she ganks bottom, that's probably going to be a kill, because you have so much engage for bottom. So I would be trying to set up for you an engage on mid. That would be something I'm trying to do between level 6 and level 8, trying to come here and get a good roam off. And if that doesn't happen, it just means you need to try and do it a little bit later, because opening this up is a very good part of how you can play early game. Late game, again, you're going to want to try and hit an Ashe ult on when there's only like 3 of them, ideally something without Kayle. Everyone's getting out early. Well, no, not really. So whenever you're setting up a vision line, right? You walk back. You really should, since your Braum's standing over here, either ward this or stand here. It's really easy. You're already on your way, but then you turned around. Always defend when you can. I rant about that more in other reviews, but this is a bad habit. It's such a simple thing to defend this, and it can contribute to a win or a loss. Mentality is a huge thing. Someone dying here could make your team tilt. Someone dying here could mean they start with an item, which means they get an XP lead because they force someone out of lane, because they have extra potions, etc. It snowballs for no reason. You really shouldn't give that advantage. All right. You definitely have positioning problems. Um, so level 1 in a lane is really important. Level 1 is really important. This decides who gets level 2 first and who can play aggressive. So I see what you're trying to do. For starters, you're probably waiting your... No, you're not waiting your W cooldown. You just hold it. So you're staying off of the wave for the start of this, probably waiting until you can last hit all of them. Right? It makes sense. But if you're going to last hit all of them like this, you then start playing back a lot. And the cues that you're doing, you see your positioning is cueing your support that you want to play back, which means that he's not popping his relics, which means you're going to lose level 2. Your positioning where you back off here, you have the mark and you're backing off again. You play a little bit too safe. Because whenever you back off after something like that, instead of pressing on the kill, you signal to your Braum that you don't want this trade. So your Braum is backing up because this wave is going to push to you, and then you go in. And one of the best ways for bot lane to trade is trading onto one person when both of you can trade, right? So this is a perfect trade for them because the Braum can't respond. You're in a position that two of them can trade onto one. So you are guaranteed to lose this trade. Guaranteed. Because the Braum can't help you. And this could have been different by the way that you started this lane. You start this lane by backing off. That cues to your Braum, you don't want the fight. You could have wave cleared this so you wouldn't have had any sort of minion disadvantage. You see how you clear that right away? But you back off here. And that cues your Braum. And then after your Braum steps back like this, you can't be playing up because you're going to lose that trade. You take a fourth shot from Jhin, not respecting cooldowns. And it doesn't matter if he took that amount of damage because he has more potions than you. Supports start with 3 potions and he can heal. Huh. I wouldn't have expected this. Wow. And look, your positioning here too. Whenever you're trying to trade onto someone, your positioning is really bad because you're again playing really safe here. You're backing off to the point that you're not even trying to trade onto someone. But if you look at this fight, you could have traded onto one person, just one person able to trade back, right? 2 versus 1. This situation over here could have played out over here. Do you see where they are? This is the equivalent of the Braum earlier. If you had gone on the Kayle here, do you see how the Kayle has to run away? They're not in a position to respond. If you kited up towards your tower, it would have been you trading onto the Kayle and only one person trading back, the Kayle trading back. Yeah, your positioning is way too safe, unnecessarily. You don't know when to trade. And the key that you're looking at, right, for these trades is a numbers advantage. And that's just a positioning thing. You're positioning, you're stepping up whenever it's going to be 2 people able to trade onto you, and you avoid going in whenever 2 people can trade onto them. That's a really disrespectful positioning thing too. This is really problematic positioning. Whenever the wave is going to crash against your turret anyways, like this wave, right from here, how many minions are you going to lose? Even before this. From here, how many minions are going to lose if you just let this wave push up to you? Maybe 1. Maybe 1. But if they get this potential to trade onto you, the Braum can't go in right now because he's half-life. He's still healing up. They have minion advantage too because they've been wave clearing this. So if you go in on them, they're going to have an extra like 100 damage on you guys. Extra 100 damage and half-life means that you don't want this trade, so you should just let the wave in. And The problem with this is right here. You start letting it in. That's going to come to you anyways. You decide that you want to trade onto the Bard, or maybe you just autoed this one. Yeah, right here you trade onto the Bard for no reason. It's going to come to you. You then stand in a way which lets him have his stun, which lets them have all of their follow-up damage. So 2 things so far. Knowing whenever to trade with people whenever you have a numbers advantage, and knowing when to just let waves push into you. Because you are trying to force onto that wave whenever it was a really unnecessary thing. You were going to be able to get all that CS under turret, and you took like 80% of your health to do that. To step up to auto 1 minion, and then you got stunned, which probably lost all those anyways. Three things if you count the vision control early. You step up again whenever the wave is going to come to you. The wave is coming to you. And you are in a position where 2 of them could trade onto you. Do you see this problem? Right around here. This wave is coming to you. You're not going to lose anything. And you step this close. Jhin can still W you, which means he at least gets 1 auto if the Bard stuns you. You just need to learn to let waves come in. And because you were too greedy trying to get to that wave, now you have to give it up. You can't stay for this now. Now that your support's gone, again, just let this wave come to you. You don't want to step up. You don't know where the Bard is. Bard could still be waiting in these bushes. Their Jhin is still here. What reason does the Bard have to leave? You're not using your trinket at all. If you are in this situation, it's a great time to get your ward off over here. You could first use your hawk shot, guarantee that he's not there, put a ward in here for later, because he's going to come back to lane and start zoning you out again. You've been pushed in this whole time. Now is your safe time to get this ward. This is respectful positioning, though. I do like this. This is not a good Kindred gank. My concern with that Kindred gank was with the Kale timer. So whenever someone's Okay, one of the most important things about playing any lane is tracking the enemy jungler. And you can track the enemy jungler with the clock most of the time. I go more into this in other reviews. I'm not going to be going too in-depth into it here, especially because the Kayle has already had some unusual gank routes. But you can kind of predict where he's going to be farming. So at 6 minutes, your jungler is probably clearing down at this point in time because this is spawning. The bottom side buff spawns at like 6:30. So he's going to want to be around here at 6:30. Now, that means that he's probably going to be clearing either Wolves and Gromp and then Blue. Maybe that's going to be his 6:30 timer. Maybe he's going to clear Wraiths, then he's going to work down like this. Maybe he's going to look for a gank while he waits for it, right? So the reason that this was a really risky gank was because you had no vision anywhere to predict where the enemy was. The Kayle could have been here, and that would have 100% turned this gank. The Veigar did try and TP, but TPing is really hard to do with this meta. There's really low chance you get something with a TP gank. It's much better to roam and then TP back to lane. But anyways, you didn't know where the Kayle was. And for that aggressive of a gank in a lane that... Yeah, you see the Kayle here, right? So you know that the Kayle is bot side. So he probably can clear his wolves. And then he wants to stay on this side of the map. So maybe he taxes mid depending upon how this pushes, or maybe not taxes, but kills mid depending upon if he has flash. But yeah, this is where Kayle is. He's on this side of the map. You've already seen him. You know he's here. So then to be going for this gank, whenever you've already seen him try and walk like this, he's definitely going to be looking at bottom. He's on Gromp right now, but... You have a good flash out, but this is a really unnecessarily close gank. Okay, and one of the most important things is to think about what you can get afterwards. If you're going to lose this wave for that kill, then you're going to be behind an XP, which means they're going to be 6 before you, which means you might be behind another kill. They might kill you. So if you lose out on all this XP, you could potentially even lose that 1 for 0. You might also lose Dragon because of that. You might lose red buff because they could invade. There's a lot you could lose out because of this trade where all of you are now too low to really respond to anything. And the LeBlanc recalled, right? So the LeBlanc wasn't going to be there. Staying for this wave is the right move, but you're going to have to just wait till it comes to you. And since you guys had been pushing it earlier, he could have just frozen it. But he just seems to like shoving, so you're in a good spot. This is what you need to be doing a lot more of, letting it come to you. This is the first time I've seen you do this. Why did you even need to do this trade? Bard's first auto is like his most powerful ability, basically. And you look for a trade. Yes, it's a 1-for-1 trade, but you're already half life. He has the ability to heal. He has potions. There's no reason to do this trade. You could just wait for your support. You could wait for the wave. Look, they're pushing it in again. You take unnecessary trades, like here, and then you're level 1. You take that unnecessary trade over here whenever the Braum couldn't help you. Whenever you step into the minion wave, whenever you got ignited, had to like flash and heal away. A big problem of yours is definitely positioning and knowing when to trade. So lessons on when to trade. Okay, there's several things you need to look for when to trade. In a matchup like this, you're going to have a hard time punishing last hits because he can always Q with his bouncing grenade, which is going to let him last hit the minion and probably still damage you. So you're not really going to be able to look for the last hitting window to punish. You do need to look for the numbers advantage, and you also need to be looking at something else. You need to be looking at potions. Can lanes heal, right? What kind of kill pressure do we have on them? If you don't have any kill pressure, it's just trading harass, you better make sure that you're going to be able to sustain whatever you put out on him. And since you don't have fleet footwork, you're using press the attack, you're going to have very limited sustain compared to Bard. You only have Relic to sustain you. You don't have potions. He has potions. So ideally, you don't trade onto the Bard. Trading onto the Jhin is fine, but not the Bard. And if you trade onto the Jhin, you're going to make sure you need to be watching his autos, because his autos are basically abilities. Right, there's the next thing that you need to be looking at. Whenever you're trading on someone, you need to look at their abilities. For Bard, as I said, his first auto is one of his most powerful abilities. Jhin's fourth auto is one of his most powerful abilities. So if the Bard misses his auto, like he autos the minion wave to push it up, and he Qs the minion wave, that's a safe time to trade onto the Bard. He's not going to have much left for you. Literally, pretty much just like 60 damage he'll have for you. That's it. The Jhin, if he Qs the wave to push it and is on his, like, you know, his third shot like this, or not third shot, this is his first shot, that's safe time to trade onto the Jhin. But you can't here because you have the numbers disadvantage. So those are three different windows. Minions, cooldowns, positioning. If they can trade with two people, then you don't want it. The fourth reason is, again, the resources, what they have. Fifth reason is kill pressure. If you can get a kill, that's a different type of trade. They have to play a lot more safe. They'll maybe blow flash if that's the case. If they have kill pressure, it's reversed. You might have to blow flash. And the last thing is what you can get afterwards. If you trade onto the Bard and you make the Bard have like 100 life, but you also have 100 life, yes, you could potentially get a kill on him, but he's not the one trying to farm. You're the one trying to farm. So you're going to have to step up to the wave while the Bard can just recall. If you recall, you're putting this lane way far behind for no reason. So again, you need to be trading onto the Jhin in this sort of situation. That's why it's really good for the support to be playing this aggressive, because you only can trade onto him, and you don't want to trade onto him. So don't trade onto him. Whenever you have windows like this where you can auto him and he can auto you, just don't do it. Wait for the wave. Wait for the wave. If you're looking at the map, you know that the Bard is going up, so you should be pinging it. Because there's a lot that's happening mid right now. Look at that. Look at that. Bard just started walking up here. You need to ping that immediately or hawkshot it immediately. If you're not watching your lane, when he's playing this aggressive onto you, you know he's fucking going to roam. And if he's not going to roam, he's standing over here looking to kill you. So hawkshot. Hawkshot. You're playing a champion that has the most cheating vision in the game. And I've seen you use it like once. Use this shit. And if he's gone, look to play onto the Jhin. You have a lot that can get onto him between the Braum potentially flash queuing, your slows, and the Braum stun. You could kill the Jhin if the Bard is gone. Just look for that window if he is actually leaving. And he is. He is 100% leaving. Oh, he's going to get the plant? Okay. I guess he wasn't going to there because the Kale was already there. There's the other option, though. Could have seen this coming. If you had Hawkshot, you could have seen this coming. That's an incredibly obvious Bard gank. This Braum is saving your shit. What are you doing? So you overstay as well. Positioning where you can trade onto the two people at once. When two people can trade onto you is a problem. Trading onto the wrong person whenever they have resources to sustain and you don't. Overstaying in ways that, like, you don't wait for minion waves to come to you. You stay after you're basically dead and they have tons of ranged abilities to get to you. You overstay by overextending over here when you know the Braum was looking for this. Hawkshot that shit. And if you're not hawkshotting that, you're not even using your wards. You don't know what's going on up here because you're not using your fucking wards. Now, yeah, they've been shoving you in all game, so I'll give you a little bit of credit there. You know, yeah, sure, you haven't had a window to ward, right? Well, they've been shoving your shit in all game, and the Braum, or not Braum, the Bard, come on, but they both start with B. The Bard's over here, you gotta just respect that. You disrespect that way too much. But now you've given him a pretty good lead on you because he's got BF, and he's got some XP. He's already used his ult, though, so you're going to have a short window where you're a little bit better. Do you see how this is happening? Do you see what's happening over here? You overstay. You see the most obvious gank coming your way, you even hawkshot it, and you overstay. Positioning is a huge problem of yours. And that's an awareness positioning thing. That Bard over here, awareness. The Bard and the Vigar, awareness. That's an awareness positioning thing. So you're not watching the map at all. Even though you hawkshot this shit, you didn't even like look at it. Because they were walking down in the most obvious way. Now you have excellent kill potential bottom if you can get a gank because you do have your ult and Braum has his ult. These guys are both squishies. Kindred's full damage champion. If you get a window to get a gank, then you should take it. Best thing to do to get a gank is by letting it push into you and having ping control over here. All of these things are already happening. The final thing you need to do is type to your team, Kindred, come gank. Now, right now, obviously, since the Vigar was down here, you didn't want it. But Kindred's going to her mark up there, and she could easily get a mark down here. Between all of your CC, that would put you back in the game. But the only way it'll put you back in the game is if you type to your team. And how do you recognize situations like this? Here's a little key to how you can recognize it. If you're keeping flash timers, you know they don't have shit to escape your arrow. And if the Kindred was ganking right away, he probably wouldn't have flash yet. Because there's this awkward window where she's walking all the way up here when she would have instead just walked this way, right? That would have been a very free gank. And depending upon how much you're tracking the jungler should be rotating topside because this is where his buff is. Junglers always tend to play to the side of the map that has their buff. See? Up here. And since he was just down here a while ago, you would also be able to guess he's up there based off of where you saw him last. Junglers spend between 1 minute and 2 minutes on one side of the map, then go to the other side of the map. So if you see them over here, a minute later they're going to be over here. So you know that the Kayle is not going to counter gank this. You know that you have a lot of gank setup. You know they don't have a lot of escape. Really free. Type to your team. Call that out. Recognize based off of the jungle timer. Recognize based off of cooldowns. Recognize based off of your ability to engage and their ability to disengage. Very, very, very free gank. And look how aggressive they're playing. They're running into that fucking pink ward. You could definitely be doing something about that. I would be standing where the Braum can jump to me. It's kind of what you're doing. I would be doing some trading here. You back off a lot, but remember that what I was saying earlier, what you should be looking for whenever you can trade on one? This fight was not necessarily lost right away. If you're watching cooldowns, right? His first auto, there it was. His Q, there it was. He doesn't have that for you now. Now, I do kind of agree with staying for this wave. Since you're not going to be getting a gank because Kindred's way up here, there's no way you're going to be able to defend this pink ward for like, I don't know, the 2 minutes until Kindred's down here again. So yeah, this pink ward is forfeit. It should have gotten a gank earlier, but now that Kindred's on the other side of the map, it's not going to get a gank. So yeah, I would agree with just normally staying on this wave. But whenever this whole thing's happening, right, you do end up responding to it. And then your positioning here, his Q is down. You can auto attack that. You walk away. That's one auto attack that you could have gotten. That's 2 auto attacks you could have gotten. That's 3 auto attacks you could have gotten. That's a stun on him. That's your ult. All of a sudden, you have gotten 1 kill for 1 kill. And you wouldn't have died. Because now Jhin's just going to R you. Okay. Overstay. Yeah, so you could have definitely gotten the kill on the Bard over here. You could have layered that crowd control if you had autoed those first times. The decisiveness to go onto this trade, again, is not knowing how to trade. You didn't know what your advantage was. Your advantage here was cooldowns, it was kill pressure, and it was positioning so only one person could trade back onto you. It was a very good time to trade. You don't recognize these times. You also overstay for like the 3rd time this game. Now that your tower's gone, I would be looking to gank mid. That's your new goal. Keep this wave pushed just enough and be ganking mid. Since LeBlanc did get a kill by herself though, staying here for this is fine. You're getting some turret damage. You see the Kayle coming down, you gotta leave. Good, good. This is good respect. Going mid is good. Helping with the invade is fine. Yeah, because you knew that the Kindred was going to want to do this. You're creating a numbers advantage. You now need to walk out together, or yeah, you're gonna walk straight into the Bard and the Jhin here. You lost your numbers advantage. Now you're smack in the middle of their team. You had to walk out with the Kindred or walk in with the Kindred. I would have walked out this way by seeing where they were walking. You had wards over here. You knew they were coming up this way. You could have walked out towards mid lane. And that's another one of those positioning things. That's a more macro positioning sense, but walking out towards the bot lane was a very silly idea. You didn't have turret there to help, and you saw them walking to you. Right? Watch, 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 watch. Watch down here. See? See what they were doing? They were walking up like this. And if you were walking this way, you know what? LeBlanc could have been for the fight. So then all of a sudden, it's a 4v4 if they decided to chase you guys. And they TP'd. 4v4 because the Kayle's not going to be there. 4v4. That's a fair fight. But instead, you give up a kill for free. You give up potentially another kill. No, you just summoned her spell. That's fine. Oh. You do give up 2 kills. See, you end up kiting over here anyways. And you only had 1 person die, which is nice. You could probably defend this. You have a lot of wave, not wave clear, but a lot of ranged champions to hit the wave. By just slowing down their push over here, you get a top turret. So this is a very good idea to stay so that they can't rotate top. I wouldn't be looking to engage it though, which is fine because you don't have your ult. That was a good Ashe arrow, or not Ashe arrow, hawk shot. You saw if they were going to be rotating top lane, which guarantees his safety. Very good awareness there. you want to be pushing this as fast as you can. The faster you push this, the sooner the Jhin has to respond to it, and you might even be able to deny something. So be Wing this every time you get, and if you can, I would be pushing all the way to the turret because you're not going to be super relevant in this. See, it's already over. Everything that happens over here, you're not going to affect at all. One of the ways you respond to pressure is by creating pressure. Since you had to be here for this wave, you know what's going to happen? Well, yeah, they're going to look for this fight, but your team, for some reason, is the ones engaging it. Your team really shouldn't have been engaging this. But now, you're not able to defend this turret. So what your next option is to push it to this turret so that someone has to respond to you eventually. Maybe you trade 2 turrets for 1 turret. But you know what the truth of the matter is? If you were standing under this turret, you still lose this turret. You might die, and you might also lose this turret. By creating pressure over here, you at least trade something. And for some reason, you didn't get top turret. I don't know how that happened. But there's no way you're going to respond to mid in time to defend that outer. I wouldn't be here alone. This is a little bit risky. They have Bard ult. This is unnecessary positioning. I think you also need to work on your predictions a bit. You hawkshot up to her mark. I think what your idea was, maybe you were trying to secure the turret. Maybe that's what it was. But the odds of that catching someone out on this was pretty small because Sion probably had based, and then they were going to be going down for Dragon. So what was happening probably is either Vigar's still on the wave, or he's going down this way, and 4 people are probably over here, and Sion's probably walking down top lane. So unless you were really just trying to secure this turret, there was no reason for that hawkshot, and it was like 1 auto, so it really didn't need that protection. You could have hawkshot it over here and prevented this whole thing from happening. I guess Kale was going up to that mark. Alright. That was pretty good. Yeah. So, truthfully, what happened that was wrong with that fight, right? Was probably that you hadn't shopped and gotten a good item yet. You have no damage right now. So even though that fight went pretty well with where you positioned and stuff, you were guaranteed to lose this fight because the Sion has 6 kills, the Jhin has 3 kills, the Bard has 4 kills. Do you see the score? Yeah, you're not going to win this fight. So even though you positioned well, even though you dodged all of these abilities, you don't do damage. The only person on your team that does damage is the LeBlanc, and she's a pick champion. She's not a team fight champion. So by staying for this fight, instead of just trying to disengage it by walking it out, you guaranteed that you were going to lose it. So you're not recognizing advantages. And right, let's go back to what I was saying earlier. Remember how you recalled and you went mid, and then you essentially showed up to this fight, and you lost this fight? The alternative was that you would have been pushing bottom further. And if you had done that, and then you had backed off after people were coming down, right? With your hawk shot, you could have created some vision control. With your wards, you could have gotten some vision control. By the way, you don't ward ever. That's a huge problem. But you haven't really done anything this game. I mean, you play a mix of super safe and where you just like don't look for trades, but you also take trades that are terrible. You position yourself in a way that two people can trade onto you. You don't trade whenever that there's two people on your team that can trade onto one person. And you don't push the waves to a point that you're being useful. You look to group right away after everyone's dead, and you can't group. So realistically, you haven't done anything yet this game. You haven't created a lead, and you haven't created a window for your team to come back. One of the best dick moves to do as an AD carry is whenever you're losing a lane, to push that lane in enough, just barely enough, so that way their AD carry has to always be here. Because if you remove one problem, you're already more useful than if you were over here. Because if you're over here, you're the problem. Try and remove a problem. Try and create pressure so that they have to respond to you instead of just grouping for something. And if they group for this and they play it correctly, they would definitely get it. Here's where you don't have correct vision control, but you do know 3 people are top. So the maximum amount of response you'll get is 2, the Veigar and the Jhin. And realistically, you're probably only going to get the Jhin because this is his wave, you know, it's his lane, and a lot of people just, for some reason, are stuck to the idea that they have to respond to their lane. So this is a very safe push. The Braum finds a Veigar. He wards really close. Jhin's mid. They got 4 mid. You're staying for this. Good. But you see people coming bottom now. You have to leave. You're not respecting this window to leave. They have 4 people coming bottom. Yeah, they could have definitely caught you there. You have a huge wave pushing top, so your next idea should be to create pressure somewhere else. So you would want, again, to be going bot lane. You're eventually going to get the tower if you keep chipping away at it like this. That is a total waste of your ult. You just got rid of all of your pick potential, and it's a tank that you're not going to kill anyways. He gets out, see? And if you had your ult here, look at what you could have turned on. Meanwhile, you're also never setting up vision control. You see these fights where it's all this darkness. You could have put wards down during this, which meant that your LeBlanc could have chased better, which maybe meant that she got a kill over here. Oh, she did get a kill anyways. Okay. I don't know what aggroed the red buff, but yeah, you don't trinket at all. This is a major problem. I haven't seen you put down one ward this entire game, and you have been in positions where you could have put down wards. You know what? You wouldn't have had to hawk shot that if you had put down your fucking wards over here. So wards, trades, knowing when to trade, knowing when to let the wave come to you, knowing where to position yourself on the map, knowing whenever to create pressure instead of responding to pressure, knowing the jungle timers to whenever you need to set up a gank, knowing when to type to your jungler to set up a gank, knowing when to not overstay. You didn't have a ward. If you had fucking warded over this wall, you would have gotten the pick on him. You literally just don't know how to ward. Like, you don't know how to click your ward button. That's a problem. I go in other reviews and talk more about where you should be warding. But for starters, just try and use your ward, because if you don't put any wards down, you're sacrificing way too much. Because if you had vision control over there, LeBlanc would have known not to pick that fight. LeBlanc would still be alive. If LeBlanc was still alive, you could have pressured bottom lane and had the top turret taken. Or, like, see, you could pressure bot wave right here. They just sent someone to respond to top wave. Now, all of a sudden, you can respond to this. You could maybe rotate over to dragon. You're not going to get anything being mid here because there's going to have, yeah, people mid. And again, you ult the Scion. Whenever you ult the Scion, you remove all of your pick potential, and that's how you're going to get back in this game. You're ulting to team fight, and you're not a team fight comp. With the way that it's going, and the Urgot being 0-9 and 0, you're not a team fight comp. You're a pick comp. Your money is all on LeBlanc. So play to the LeBlanc strengths. Play to picks. All right, and then you just surrender. Okay. Right. So I can't rewind now, but your problems this game, definitely positioning both in a macro and a micro sense. You need to know when to trade. Whenever to trade, I went over earlier the ways you should be looking for windows to trade. But your biggest problem is definitely picking whenever you have like advantage with sustain, because you trade onto someone who has more potions than you, and knowing whenever to trade in general. Whenever there are two people and you only can trade like one response person to two people who can trade onto you is terrible. Never do that. You also don't ward. That's a major problem. Start using your trinket. You don't respond very well to jungle pressure, and that is not something that's been really a problem this game because you were pushed in the whole time, but you don't know how to type to your team to set up for a very safe and secure gank. You don't know how to ult because all of your ults were not picks. They were teamfight ults just to stun a Scion at melee range. It's not good. You don't know how to let a wave come for you. You're very greedy whenever you go for that. You don't know how to create pressure on the other side of the map. Whenever you're pushing bot turret and then you decide to rotate mid after everyone's dead, you just give them free reign to do whatever they want after that. And you don't know when to stay for a team fight or whenever you're just going to lose it. You definitely lost that team fight. You don't want to look for team fights. You want to look for picks. The way you look for picks is vision control. That requires warding. That requires correct hawk shots, knowing where to predict the enemy. I mean, you did outpredict me, I admit, by knowing the Kayle and the Veigar were going to be walking top. I didn't expect that. I expected them to go into Dragon. But yeah, I didn't. This game ended so early, I wasn't able to talk about wave management or Baron control or anything like that. But really, you have plenty to work on. The biggest thing I would say is knowing when to trade. That's going to help you win lanes. Beyond that, knowing where to ward, and actually warding. That's going to help you pick smart fights. And after that, it's going to be ulting correctly because you choose which fights are smart. So those three things are going to be huge gains. But you have a lot of problems. And that's not meant to be an offensive comment. That's meant to say you have a lot of untapped potential. Whenever you have obvious things like this that you do not do, and once you recognize them and start improving upon them, you're going to see a lot of gains. So whenever I'm flaming you here, I'm not flaming you to be mean. I'm flaming you to say you have a lot to work on, and that's good. Whenever your problems are something like CSing or maybe mechanics, your mechanics that I saw in the fight with the Scion were fine. Those things that you only can really come with practice. A lot of your problems are recognizing situations where you can do something. And I went over a lot of those situations this game that you could look for, and you're just going to need to start to expand that to more games. Trades is something that can expand to every game once you start understanding what makes a good trade. Again, look earlier, I explained it. Vision control is something that can work in every game. Those are things that will see massive gains. Yeah, so anyways, that's all I've really got for you for this. You got a lot to work on, which is good. I didn't get into too many different things here. I had a very narrow focus on kind of your laning situation, because your lane and then your vision control are probably two things that you need to work on the most. All right. Anyways, Hope some of that's helpful. Good day.